Welcome to Tampa Home Talk with your host, native Tampa real estate girl, Katrina Madewell, a full-time, passionate, out-of-the-box thinker, love for home ownership kind of realtor with over 21 years of combined mortgage and real estate experience. Tune in every week at this time for expert advice on everything you need to know about home ownership, finance, maintaining great credit, building wealth, and making your everyday life better, and how you can be financially successful today and tomorrow. Remember, love where you live or let Katrina fix it. Now, here's your host of Tampa Home Talk, Katrina Madewell.
Well, good morning. I am, in fact, your host for Tampa Home Talk, Katrina Madewell. Welcome to the show. And just like with every single week, we got a great show lined up for you today. And almost every show we get comes from questions and things that we see in the field. So today's topic is going to be all about what you need to know about your boundary survey. And you know what's funny to me is people often mix up boundary survey and appraisal. For some reason, they just kind of mix those two up. Totally different things. So your boundary survey is kind of like your map, your drawing or your little floor plan, if you will, of your land. And your survey is your valuation for the bank. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce our guest, of course, in the corner over there. Welcome back. Every week we have Mr. Leo Cannon. Welcome back.
I'm excited to be here today. I have so many questions for survey. We see those on almost every transaction we do.
All right. I can't wait. I know you'll add a lot of value to the conversation and likely filling in for me next week as well. So thank you for that. And we also have Jason Douglas. Welcome to the show.
Good morning. Thank you for having us.
And also Ben Watson, right in the middle. How you doing?
Great. How are you?
We are doing fabulous today. And let me introduce you guys. Pretty cool story. Small world, right? Like, I don't want to butcher the name, but it's Terminus?
That's correct.
Surveying? Okay. So I didn't know this till you guys came in the studio, but you ended up buying an old company that has been in the Brandon area for many years.
Yeah, Mike Mooney was Mooney & Associates. He ran a successful business for a whole lot of years. He pulled me on as a full-time employee, and I helped him grow his business. And he got to the point where he felt comfortable handing over the business and being able to retire. He's a great guy. I learned a lot from him, and couldn't have anything better to say about him.
And the crazy part is, like, look at this guy, Pat. How old would you think he is? To my right.
Well, I first saw him in the dark, and I thought he was about 45 or something.
What?
And now that I got up and I saw him when he was fixing your chair, he looks like he's about 27.
Yeah, he spent 18 years in the military serving our country before he ever even did this.
18 years. Thank you. What branch was it?
U.S. Army. I was a U.S. Army Airborne, and then the MP unit here in Tampa, the 317th MP.
Oh, we're at MacDill?
No, over at the Himes Armory. It was a reserve unit.
Okay.
And then I finished my career here at the Dust-Off unit.
Well, my son's in the Air Force, and he's getting ready. He cannot stand being a cop at MacDill. He doesn't like that at all, so he's changing his career field, and he wants to work with the Army as a TAC-P, and I'm sure you know what that is.
Oh, yeah. It's a great career field, and it's a great choice to change from the MPs. The MP job was a little boring one.
So what is that? I don't know what that is. What is it, Pat?
A TAC-P is where you put a radio on your back, and you go in with the infantry, or go with the Army and the Marines, and when they are bogged down, they call in airstrikes.
Oh.
And if you don't have the right coordinates, everybody dies.
Wow.
The JTAC school for that's down in southern Florida. It's a really good program. I actually got to see some of it. We did a mission down there to help them support them. It was a really good time.
My son's only hours away from getting that call to go back to Lackland for about 8 months.
Well, thank you again for serving, of course, Pat, to your son and also to you, Jason. And so after the military, your first civilian job was climbing cell phone towers, wasn't it?
There was a little bit of a, transition there. I did a couple weird odd and end jobs, and then I got offered a position doing the cell phone towers, and that was definitely a very unique field to be in. I didn't mind jump heights because I jumped out of airplanes in the Army, so it kind of moved me forward in my career progression. It was a really good job because the boss...
you're jumping out of planes, hey, what's climbing up towers? No big deal.
Yeah, exactly. And the best thing about that job is the boss is never up there with you, so you really do what you want.
I guess so. That's certainly one way to look at it. And so how long have you been serving?
3 years now. I'm a registered surveyor in training underneath Ben Rogers. I was underneath Mike as well. It's a 5-year program to be able to sit for your test, so I'm a little over halfway through it, and I've learned a tremendous amount from both Ben and Mike. Ben's taught me a lot of stuff on how the legality of it.
And Ben, to your right, like he started his survey career in 1985 at the age of 18 years old, like me. You started in your career field, and you've done this ever since, right?
Yes, I've really enjoyed it.
And so by the age of 20, you actually had achieved a crew chief position. And what does that mean?
Well, that means that you're the leader of the crew, of a 2 or 3 man crew.
And so everybody works collaboratively as one job, but you're making sure they're all doing it right?
Yes, I'm in complete charge.
Awesome. And so another cool little fun fact too, Pat, you'll like this. Ben was part of the Sunshine Skyway project when the bridge got hit in the 80s.
Now, he was part of it before it got hit or after it got hit?
I was part of the rebuild of it.
Okay. Yeah, because I remember that vividly. I was doing traffic, which I'm still doing today, when it was hit. And I was told by another traffic reporter, I have one of the biggest traffic stories ever in the Tampa Bay area. And I go, oh, absolutely not. And I said, what is it? He goes, I can't tell you. Oh, never mind, I'm going on the air. And he said, the Skyway Bridge is in the water. And I still get goosebumps.
I was a kid
that.
and I remember that. I remember the bus falling off the bridge. Like, oof. Anyway.
Oh, yeah.
So you were also, Ben, you were one of the first professionals in Florida to use GPS equipment, right?
Yes, I was.
What does that mean for surveying? Like, how did that transform your business?
Well, it works with the satellites and state plane coordinates, so you can actually, it's pretty much a survey stick that talks to the satellites and pinpoints your position very accurately.
That'd make it a lot easier.
Yes.
So let's go back to and we're going to jump into logistics and kind of move all around like we do for every show, but obviously the survey sometimes is like the last thing to get done, right? Because we want to make sure that you guys get paid for your job. Nobody ever wants to order it. It's the last thing that gets done. So you get these rush jobs, right? Because they want to make sure they're through underwriting, the appraisal's good, everything's good. Okay, let's order the survey.
Every job is a rush.
So let's talk about, first of all, the different types of surveys, right? Because if you go into a neighborhood and you're doing a lot and block survey, that's going to be much easier than what you guys call meets and bounds surveys, right?
Depending on the neighborhood. I mean, some of the older neighborhoods in the Tampa and Pinellas areas have had corners in the ground for 90, 100, 105 years, and they don't update those plats. So you could get on a lot and block job that would take you 9 hours, where you could do a meets and bounds sometimes in an hour and a half.
Excellent. That makes sense. So let's describe what that looks like. So if you're looking at your survey and you're reading it, what we mean by a platted survey, it would have like lot 1, block 9 of such and such subdivision, and then meets and bounds would be like the northwest corner of the south half corner of the, it's really long.
Yeah, the lot and block subdivisions are basically just the square mile broken down into actual subdivisions that are platted by another surveyor in order to make it easier for people to define their land, add more land add more land, but create more space in that land for more homes. So it makes it easier on the rest of us when we go through and actually get to a platted subdivision, because everything's already defined for you. You know where the corners should be because they give you angle and distance, and all of the accoutrements come with a plat as far as easements, stuff like that. You know what to look for. As to where raw land or acreage land, you're not going to have any of that. You kind of have to do your research, have to go through the deeds. Hopefully somebody's done a good title search for you in order to provide you with all the information you need to actually conduct that survey correctly the first time. So
now it's kind of hard to, and you see, I'm sure, times as well where surveys get messed up, and people accidentally pull a different part of, and we'll talk. I'd like to dive into that a little bit too, but many times these plats, when you go out to do a survey, they're going to have little iron pipes in the ground and that sort of stuff, and I imagine that makes your job a little bit easier.
It does if they're all there, but a lot of people don't understand the value of them, so they pull them out, they hit them with mowers, they replace them, they put their own corners in the ground to benefit their boundary. You wouldn't believe how many times we've gone out, put corners in the ground, and the neighbors immediately come out and move them as soon as we leave. It makes it, they're trying to get a little bit more land, or they think they know where their fence is because their grandfather lived there for 20 years or whatever. They all have their own unique stories, and they all believe they know exactly where their property lines are. I mean, we can only go by what's provided to us in the legal description. So, I mean, more often than not, you see that in raw acreage land, not necessarily lot and block neighborhoods. So
when is a survey hard for you guys? When there's no pins in the ground and you have to kind of divide acreage up, or no?
That makes it very difficult. And then there's clients that are very motivated to get the survey done. They sometimes make it much harder because constantly calling, you try to rush through the survey as fast as you can to provide a quality product, but at the same time, you need that time to actually produce a quality survey. And sometimes you just don't get out there the first time and find everything that you're supposed to find, or it's just not there. So you have to go further out and prove out
So
the section.
what are you looking for? You say when you get out there, find everything you're supposed to find. Walk me through this process. Like, I'm following you around for the first time, and we're getting ready to survey a property. And, you know, you say you're looking for things in the ground. And I'm sure you probably hear the music rolling in, so you know what that means.
Oh.
We're going to have to answer that when we come back after the break. But we'll walk you through what it's like to follow around a survey tech. Is that right? Survey engineer in the field?
Survey crew, I would say.
Survey crew. And then even before we dive into that, it's cool because you guys actually put this in here, and we learned this in Real Estate School 101. But there's a grid system pretty much in Florida, right, and all over, which relates to the GPS coordinates, so or longitude, latitude in some respect.
Basically, it's on a it's on a state plane coordinate system. They lay out these state plane coordinate systems, and once they do it, it's 1 mile by 1 mile.
I'm rushing through that question. Hold on. We're going to explain it a little bit more when we come back. It's pretty cool they explain it in Real Estate School, but we'll be back in a minute.
Hi, this is Aaron Davis, owner of Hillsborough Title. Hillsborough Title is a local, family-owned title agency here in Tampa Bay. Our service, strength, and knowledge make us different. We've served Tampa Bay area for over 30 years. From Polk County to the Gulf, Pasco to Manatee, Tampa Bay, we've got you covered. Call us at 813-712-8888, 712-8888, or visit us on the web at thebesttitle.com, thebesttitle.com. That's thebesttitle.com.
I'm Katrina Madewell with Keller Williams Realty and Tampa Home Talk, and for more than 23 years, we have been helping homeowners sell. Flexible terms with the rate to sell it yourself. Let my results speak.
They were able to get us a full price offer and a contract in our house in 9 days.
I just wanted to express my gratitude in finding a cash buyer for my property in less than 24 hours.
I'm not bragging. I'm applying for a job. I want to be your realtor. Call 813-777-1196. Thank you.
Is it possible to put fun and politics in the same sentence? You can if you're talking about the show Mason Dixon and Charlie the Sarge Oaks do every weekday from 11 a.m. till noon on Money Talk. It's Mason Dixon Wide Open with the Sarge. They take local and world affairs very seriously, but just can't help themselves and insert a jolt of fun to lighten things up. Mason grew up a Southern boy in Memphis and has been doing hit radio shows for decades. The Sarge grew up in Hippie Heaven, Oregon, battled the Viet Cong as an Army sergeant, did radio morning shows, and was a broadcast businessman for decades. They've been buddies for years, and when you mix them together on the radio, it's a little weird, but fun. They only have one rule: keep it clean. They're both motorheads, so there's always some car talk. Join in and give your opinion toll-free at 888-404-1010. 888-404-1010. Mason Dixon Wide Open with the Sarge, Monday through Friday from 11 a.m. till noon on Money Talk 1010 a.m., 103.1 FM and 92.1 FM, or 99.5 FM HD2.
Welcome back. And we are in the studio this morning with James Douglas Ben Watson. Is it? Yours says Watson. Is that right?
It's Rogers.
It's Rogers?
Yes.
I'm going to correct that now. I'm sorry
That's
about
okay.
that. And also Leo Cannon with Barrel Engineering and Inspections, which protect what matters to you most.
Your family.
And we were talking a little bit before we led into the conversation about the meets and bounds and how that works. So I know in real estate school, right, which is probably a little different than the real world, if I were to follow you around, one of the things that they do with the meets and bounds is they still follow it, right, like in an S pattern. No? Yes? Maybe?
No, it should go, normally we go clockwise. You start at this point of beginning, and then you go clockwise around the legal back to the point of beginning. When a surveyor writes it, that's the way it's done. You see a lot of other people that write legal descriptions that should not be writing legal descriptions, or they're allowed to, but they should not be because they're not qualified to do so. That's where you get the very wonky ones that may be S descriptions or just random descriptions that you really have no idea how to read them. It gets challenging when you get to some of these other legal descriptions that are written by somebody that's not a surveyor.
So and they're all broken down into like little square grids or pieces, and then that's where they further break them down right into little pieces of land.
So go back a little.
How much is each grid? I forget.
It's 1 mile by 1 mile, the whole grid. So what you're looking for, or what you're looking at there is, back in the early 1900s, late 1800s, a bunch of guys rode around on horse and drug a cart with chains, 66 foot and 33 foot of chain. They drag these chains out to measure the square mile. Well, that kind of put a damper on things these days because we use technology that's much more accurate. when in the summertime, 33 feet of chain is not 33 feet of chain. It's like 35 feet of chain because expansion. In the wintertime, it's 33 feet is probably 32 and a half feet. They didn't really account that in so much in the sections. So the sections now in the counties are a little longer, a little shorter, and then they throw a lot of the air into the southerly sections. So you get out there, and the section corner should be 26-40 away, But in reality, it could be 28-10, it could be 25-30. So there's a lot of play in a meets and bounds description. And that's kind of why they use them, because they allow that error in there for us.
All right, so let's talk about that. And I know you said, let's go back to the question I asked you kind of before I added another one in there. But we were talking about if I were to go in the field and follow you around, you said there's things you look for. What do you look for as a surveyor? Like, where do you start? And, Ben, feel free to jump in as well and add to the conversation at any time. But, we're all going out there. Me, you, Leo, Michelle, we're all hopping out there. And I'm going to follow you around for the day and figure out how you do a survey. What are you doing?
Well, we're looking for iron pins that are about a couple inches below the ground.
And that's where you start?
Yes. Well, we start by looking at the plat or reading the legal description that's provided. And with that, most of the time you start at the center of the road and you look at the right-of-way. And if it's a 50-foot right-of-way, you go from the center, half of that's 25. So you pace or pull 25 feet, and that's where the right-of-way should be, and you start there. And you kind of look at fences. You can kind of read a fence and tell the material on the fence on who owns the fence, so where the corner should be.
Really? Okay,
Yes.
do tell, because we get this question all the time, and I still don't know the answer to it 27 years later,
I'm
than
not
ask the
allowed
owner.
to reveal that.
Are you serious? Really?
It goes by the material, as in like a wood fence. The vertical boards are what. I'm sorry, I have to start over. You used to have a permit for a fence, and then it would be where the wood material vertical would be on your property, so the nice part of the fence would be on your neighbor's. But now they've changed that where you don't need a permit, so now the wood can be either way.
Yeah.
So it's a little harder.
I've heard people literally say, if I'm paying for the fence, I'm going to look at the nice side of the fence and put the other side on the neighbor's side.
Yes, and you're not supposed to do that, but without a permit, everybody does it now. So it's when you see a new fence, you kind of know you can tell whose it is from experience, and you can still kind of tell. Chain links are a lot easier because they have the vertical pole, and the fence companies always set those the right way.
And I'm sure every job's a little different, but let's say, your atypical job, right? You're going out there, you're looking for the iron pins in the ground, you're looking to see if there's fences. What else are you looking for?
Well, we're just looking for any kind of evidence. We'll talk to neighbors if they come out, and we'll ask them if we can't find it. Have they ever seen it when they moved in? Was it there? Do they have a survey when they moved in? And sometimes talking to somebody is almost as good as finding the corner.
This is if you can't find the corner.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, especially in the rural areas where the old farmer comes out and he says, that pin's been there forever. We can actually almost go by what he says as long as it fits and set that pin where he thinks it should be.
Makes sense. Yeah, absolutely. And then, so how do you determine what type of survey somebody actually needs, right? Because there's a bunch of different surveys, and I'm looking at this, and I guess we're familiar with pretty much the boundary survey, right, in real estate. So when we do the most, but you guys have boundary surveys, topographical surveys?
Topographical
surveys.
Elevations.
So with or without trees. And we'll talk about, what does elevations matter?
Well, if you're building, the city or state county wants to know the elevations for drainage. So when you build the house, everything drains the right way.
Leo, I'm sure you have plenty to add, so you jump in at any time.
Oh, about topo surveys and tree surveys?
Yes.
No, it's just like a lot of what we do when we're doing any type of construction or we're doing any kind of site plans, we need a survey. I mean, that's usually they call our office and we're immediately like, do you have a survey? Do you know what windows and doors you want to install? And that becomes our first two questions. I mean, the city wants us to show the survey on our plans. They also want us to show where the trees are. And then if they're doing additions, they want to actually see a plan view of our addition with where the trees are so they can see if we're taking out any trees in the process.
Now, why do they want to know that?
Is Florida, they kind of like our trees?
Well, you have to be a certain distance away from trees, especially grandfather oaks.
We learned that the hard way, right?
25 feet.
Some of these huge trees, right, Leo, that you see right next to the bathroom in these older homes built in the 50s that, this tree's huge. The whole root system is under the house by now.
Yeah.
And also the elevation certificate might be one of the most important documents in certain areas like St. Pete or South Tampa.
Without a doubt.
Because if you guys come back and say that it's a floodplain anything other than X, we have to use a completely different standard when it comes to doing the design.
Yes. When you're in a flood zone, it's a totally different kind of survey you need.
And so the other one you have is it Alta in SPS? Is that right or no?
Alta NSPS is basically just a standard of it's a rules of guidelines on how to conduct that survey. Those are typically reserved for sales of commercial buildings, sales of commercial property that are over $1 million, $1 million plus.
And then what about construction surveys? Is that what Leo was referring to?
That's similar. That's all part of the lead up to the construction process. So you're going to need your boundary, your topo, your tree, and a site plan to provide to the county to get your permit to build. Once you're ready to start building, then we would come in and we would do a stakeout and then the tie-in. Once we pour the slab or pour the elevation up to where you're supposed to be, we prove that you've met that elevation. So that make sure that anywhere else in the county that's not in a flood zone, which isn't really anywhere in the county because even flood zone X is a flood zone. It's just not one that floods often. So the way to look about it is they provide us with 18 inches above ground road is typically the Hillsborough County standard. So we go back out there, make sure it's 18 inches above the ground of the road, make sure they've met their elevation, and then you would have a final survey after that. Once the house,
I was going to ask if you update them after the.
Yeah, you'll have to get their CO. They have to have a final. So I mean, in order to get their notice of occupancy to move in, that final survey has to be complete to show the county what the taxable improvements are.
Well, I was thinking more along the lines of like an addition or an update. If you guys update the surveys at that point.
Oh, yeah. I mean, anything that you do on the property should be shown on the survey. It makes it better for you in the future. I mean, and laws change. So, I mean, it is good to always update your survey every few years. I mean, not necessarily if you're not going to move or do anything.
I can tell you this is not something people think about.
No, definitely not.
Like we go on a listing appointment, we're like, you have your survey, your prior owner's policy, because we know what we're looking for. But you'd be surprised how people are like, nope, never got a survey. I have no idea where my owner's policy is.
I'm like happy if they change out their air filters once every 30 days or drain their water tank once every 6 months. Have you had your survey updated every other year?
Yeah, no. I'm not even draining my water tank. Like I don't know how to do that.
It's a hose. It's a button. You just poof.
I don't know how to do that.
We'll talk after the show.
Okay. And then wet zone. So what's a wet zone survey? What is that?
So in Hillsborough County, if you want to start a new establishment that serves alcoholic beverages, you have to have a wet zone survey. We actually come out, we shoot the location of the thing, of the building you want to have the wet zone in or the alcohol served in, and we have to show a 50-foot and a 500-foot radius. It's the same thing actually right now for the green zone surveys is what we're calling them. Those are for the medical marijuana facilities.
You guys are surveying those?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, my gosh. Okay.
It's pretty cool. It's a pretty good deal. It's a pretty good job in that aspect. The wet zones have kind of slowed down a little bit because there's not an influx of people trying to start new bars.
So what are you looking for? I don't understand what that survey is. Like, what's the purpose of that?
So in order for it to be approved by the county to have a wet zone there, they would have to make sure that they're not in a certain distance from a school, from a hospital, from a government facility, a kids' daycare, stuff like that. You want to make sure that if people are going to be drinking there, it's not going to harm the general public.
So you're surveying more the surrounding area versus just the property.
Correct. You're just showing the county what's around there, and they want the person there eyes on because, as you know, in a strip mall, 14 businesses may be in that strip mall, and on Google it may show all 14 of those addresses, and then we get there and, none of them are the same. It could be a daycare right next door, and the county would never allow that.
Right. And then platting, of course, is what a lot of builders do, where they come in, they buy a big chunk of land, and they divide it up. So I've had a little bit of experience with this part, not the other stuff, but certainly platting where people are either trying to combine a property or separate a property.
They're trying to change the minimum zoning for the property. So a lot of rural land right now is zoned either half acre, quarter acre, lots. They can get down to smaller lots to fit more houses in there to provide more affordable housing for the average person.
And then we'll talk about uncommon surveys and a couple other things, as well as some frequently asked questions, easement issues, and some of the big things that you guys see, which are issues on surveys. If you got a question for our surveys, our surveyors, we're at 888-404-1010. That's our off-air number, 888-404-1010. You're listening to Tampa Home Talk. We'll be back in just a minute.
Hey folks, Dave Ramsey here. It's hurricane season. If you're a homeowner, hopefully you've already called our friends at WeatherTight Windows to ask about their special rebate program to make sure your home is prepared for this storm season. But if you haven't, it's not too late. Call WeatherTight Windows right now. Aside from just hurricane protection, the biggest benefit of replacing your windows with WeatherTight windows is the amount of money you save on your energy bills and your homeowner's insurance. And as always, WeatherTight makes it affordable for any homeowner to make this investment on your home that will last a lifetime. Plus, WeatherTight's windows and doors and the installation are all under a lifetime warranty. So call WeatherTight Windows today at 813-908-0131 to schedule your free, no-obligation, in-home estimate. or visit WeathertightWindows.com. And you can always stop by their showroom on Columbus Drive. And be sure and tell them Dave Ramsey sent you.
Well, Dave Ramsey didn't send me, but I'm here anyway, and we got traffic for you after a word from Papa and Gype. You know, a car accident can instantly change your life. Call Papa and Gype, a personal injury law firm, to take you through those steps to turn it back around. 727-461-HELP or log on to papaandgype.com. Bartow, good morning. We got a problem. State Road 60 in both directions near Bonnie Mine Road. An accident with lanes blocked and big delays both directions. Clearwater, US 19, northbound of Countryside Boulevard. Accident with injuries. Wesley Chapel, still working County Line Road at Aaronwood Boulevard. And thank you to Potato that told us about that problem. Drew Street in Duncan. Injury accident there. Howard Franklin's doing okay. You be careful out there, Potato. This report brought to you by Napa Auto Parts. Napa Auto Parts has the expertise and parts you need to help keep your car on the road, no matter how many miles it has on it. Quality parts, helpful people. That's Napa know-how. Yeah, we got some rain this afternoon, mainly east of I-75, and not a bad weekend. 30% chance tomorrow.
Hey, homeowners, listen up. Interest rates are rising, and experts agree they'll continue to rise. So you need to seriously think about refinancing now before rates go up more. The longer you wait, the more interest you might pay. So if you even thought about pulling cash out of the equity in your home to pay off credit cards, car loans, or purchase an investment property, you need to make the cash call now at 855-875-CASH before mortgage rates rise anymore. Cash Call Mortgage can still refinance your loan at a low fixed interest rate for a flat fee of just $995, and we'll pay all third-party closing costs. Call 855-875-CASH today to begin the quick and easy process. We close most loans in less than 21 days to get you the cash you need fast. That's 855-875-CASH.
First Mortgages, Impact Mortgage Corp. DBA Cash Call Mortgage, One City Boulevard, Orange, California 92868, NMLS 128231. Equal housing lender, not licensed in all states including New York. Call 855-657-9910 for licensing, terms, conditions, and restrictions.
That's 855-875-CASH.
As a business owner, remember, when sales are good, that's the best time to invest in your marketing efforts. I'm Mark Steckman with Beasley Media Group, and this is your Money Marketing Minute. Great marketing acts as an insurance policy for your sales by continuing to drive business today while keeping the momentum going during the lean times. Great marketing that makes you money doesn't happen by accident. It takes a plan and consistency. For an edge over your competition, a larger share of the market, and to ensure strong future sales, go to moneymarketingminute.com and register for a free marketing analysis. I'll show you how to make your marketing dollars work harder and make you more money this year. I'm Mark Steckman, and this has been your Money Marketing Minute.
Tampa Bay's business address is Money Talk 1010 AM and available on HD at 99.5 HD2. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Money Talk 1010 AM. Tampa Bay's business address.
Welcome back. This is Tampa Home Talk. I'm your host, Katrina Madewell. I think Pat George is sick today. He's not talking very much.
I think he's saving it for next week.
Maybe.
No, I'm in here hanging out with our new intern, Potato.
Oh, I see. Okay. He's hanging out back there with the special VIP guest. Our off-air number, in case you want to connect with me, Leo, or surveyors, anybody that we have on the show, is 813-377-2775. Again, you can call or text 813-377-2775. We've got a lot of properties coming on the market that are not actually live yet. So if you're looking for a property, you're interested, you want to get a list of those properties that are coming before they actually hit the market, just text me the word show me to 813-377-2775. And so we're talking all about surveys today.
Wait, give us a hint of one of those properties. Just a little teaser of one of the better properties.
Is it like a 4-2? Right. Maybe a 5-3?
Oh my gosh. I've got...
Floodplain X?
I've got 2 coming up in Land O'Lakes in the Lake Pageant East area. I've got 1 coming up in Newport Richey. Got another one coming up in Tampa. I've got 2 in the Brandon area. And I've got some that are live. We're doing an open house this weekend on Breezy Palm, I believe. It's not me hosting it. It's somebody else from my team. But we are going to be doing an open house on Breezy Palm. Cute little townhome community in Riverview. Great property. I think it's only $185, something like that. Anyhow, so back to surveys, talking about what you need to know about boundary surveys. Some of these questions are really great. And when I think about like the easements on the property, that's probably a common question you guys get a lot. Why do they need an easement on the property?
Easements are created for access or for utilities.
And almost all of them have it, right? They're going to have some type of easement.
Most of the time, yes.
Even if it's just a road easement.
Yeah, well, actually, most roads are easements.
Right. But there's actually a provision in the mortgage, too, that's your ingress and egress, which says you have to have an ability to get to the property other than by helicopter. Or,
yes, they try not to make any landlocked properties.
We do have some of those, don't we?
Yes, somehow they still slip through.
There's a whole bunch of them right there in the Wesley Chapel, Lutz area. Tampa Bay Downs. You've seen those, haven't you? A whole bunch of Canadian people still own them. It's pretty... We should have a whole show about that one day. It would be kind of fun. I don't know how happy they would be about it, but all right. So how do I read my legal description? Do we have time to even go over this one? What's the short and skinny?
It's quite confusing. If you've never read one, it's almost impossible for someone to understand it unless they have a little bit of background. And legal descriptions are surveying of some sort, or real estate, or property appraisal, or some kind of background. They're pretty confusing if you've never read one.
Now, Jason's telling me that I need to get my property surveyed every couple years, and I just want to know, how come I can't just use my same survey when I bought my house?
Well, the laws change over time. I mean, and the surveying changes over time. We get more advanced, we get more technical, we can get closer, more accurate shots. And
so you're saying my survey might be wrong?
Your survey could be not as accurate as it could be now. I'm not going to say it's wrong.
How so? Tell me.
So you get out there, and in the older, or in the past, there were some, before 2008, let's say, there was quite a few people surveying that should not have been surveying.
Oh, do tell, I'm sure.
It was an influx.
Yes.
We were building everything all quickly, and you got as many people in as we possibly could who didn't really learn the job. And during that time, a lot of these guys, they were weeded out as soon as the crash happened, but you had a lot of guys doing surveys out in the field that shouldn't have been out there doing them, and they were just kind of solving these things and getting them done as soon as humanly possible to make the next job, to make the next money. Where you don't really have that anymore. You actually have quality surveyors now. Everyone's really concerned about solving these things. The board's cracked down on surveying companies.
Who regulates you guys?
It's a board of professional surveyors in Tallahassee,
okay.
And Department of Agriculture is who we end up falling under ultimately. The main thing with that, though, is they're actually cracking down on surveyors. People are actually sending copies of these surveys to the board to make sure they're accurate. I mean, if you had a question on your survey and the surveyor wouldn't even talk to you about it, that would be a case where you should mail that to the board, because their job, our job, is to make sure you understand your property.
What kind of questions would somebody have?
I would say, a lot of times they're just kind of difficult to read. We use...
you can't even see them, let alone read them. I mean...
We use certain terms on a survey that you definitely wouldn't see on an everyday basis. On a property line where you see a fence on the property line, we would use the term in or out. If you see 2/10 in or 2/10 out, a lot of people think, what's that, 2 inches? What is that? We work in tenths. We're using engineering scale. So, 10 tenths is 1 foot. That's the way that the system works for us. So a lot of people would think, okay, my fence is 2 inches south or out of what? Out of the boundary. So, a lot of times fences are encroaching, and, 2 different surveyors, the same surveyor, could come back 3 days in a row, and there'd be a 1/10 error in that. Just because human error of the world, the way the rotation, windy day, different spot in the ground.
So let me ask a better question, because the reality of this is, and, as soon as I leave the studio today, I'm flying to the other end of town for a closing, but basically... there's so many papers, right, at closing that you're going through, you're signing. The title company always has you acknowledge your survey, your boundary survey, but it's pretty quick. And most people really don't know how to read it. So if you're the layperson, you're not a surveyor like you don't know what to look for. So what are some tips we can give the person that's looking at their boundary survey? What are some things they should be looking for when they're looking at that survey?
Well, just we call it the occupation, where the house is. Maybe the shed in the back, look for your neighbors. Their shed is their shed on your property. And sometimes, people put fences up and don't have a company put it up, and they'll put it up a couple of feet off, and we'll come out there and survey it. And they're like, well, that can't be the property corner because the fence is over here. And the fences really don't concern us. That's not the property line. But a lot of people think the fences are the property line.
Yeah. And it's, sometimes they're right on the property line. Sometimes they're over, they're under.
Yes. And it's whose fence is it? And if the fence is on your property, we don't say that it's your fence, because we don't know who put the fence up. Your neighbor could have put it up on your property and you not know it.
That's excellent point, because this happens very often, right? And people move. Nobody has any idea who owns the fence.
Yes. When the house is vacant, there's the neighbors next door will move fences and do all kinds of stuff. The longer it's vacant, the more stuff that could happen to it.
So let me ask you a better a better question. This is kind of fun on this property. So thinking about my particular property, I would imagine if you were to survey it, it might be a surveyor's nightmare because the way the backyard slopes into the water and my back corner actually goes into the water.
Well, most of the time
you
when
go
that
swimming
happens,
if you're doing my survey?
well, fortunately, we've come up with the idea to set a witness corner. And a witness corner would be on the dry land at an even foot on the same line, but just not in the water. Because the water's kind of, we could go in there and find the point, but you really, sometimes it gets too deep.
I don't think you want to go in there. I've
and-
seen gators in there.
Oh, surveyors fight gators. We go through swamps. We do it all.
Like, seriously, you guys have encountered gators?
Yeah, we can't stop working if we see a gator. Most time, if you stomp around or hit the water and stuff, they'll go away. They're not out to eat us most of the time.
I gotcha. So, have you guys ever had to defend yourself on a gator?
No, I haven't experienced. I'm sure they've seen me where I haven't seen them.
Gotcha. So, you guys have a lot of uncommon surveys on here too, which are interesting. Like, when would you actually run across these? You want to run through what these are real quick and when you would see them?
So, the standard types that everybody normally sees, the boundary survey, topographic survey, Alta, NSPS, the construction, that's all normal stuff. Wet zones are more so. You get into some of these, the geodetic, the control surveys, that would more really be Ben to help kind of explain
What is that?
They're control surveys. They would be for DOT and larger projects where you do the control surveys. It's completely different than a little house survey. It's a control survey. You'd go out and start working on the interstates or the highways or the big expansion here on Gandy Boulevard would be a lot of control survey with construction.
I know you want to add to that.
Oh no, I deal a lot with wetland surveys. I came out of Naples, Fort Myers, and I know you have it listed here as uncommon, but down there it's very common because of the Everglades Restoration Program. So you have to make sure how much wetlands you have, what percent wetlands you have. So up here in Tampa, where you have the tree survey is the important thing. Down there, it's the wetland survey. They want to see the wetlands and they want to see the house or the addition with and without the wetlands right on top to know how much money they're going to charge you in penalties.
To kind of add to that as well, here in the Tampa market now, you have a lot of property that's been undeveloped for years, which has been wetland because there was better property to develop. Now a lot of people are actually developing that property, so we are seeing the influx in those types of surveys, more 3 or 4 a week now.
How does that change what you do as a surveyor?
Well, it takes a lot longer to do the survey because you're waiting for another entity, whether it's SwiftMud or EPC, and they're very reasonable with their time frame. But it's rain. You've got there's thousands of properties going on at once, so they have a schedule they follow, and it could be a week, could be 2 weeks. They try to get out there in a timely fashion. Normally, it's not that long, but there are other cases where they've got 100 acres they're doing, and it takes them two weeks to do it themselves because they have one guy that goes out. EPC has more than one guy, but they send out a one-man team to go out there and actually drop the flags and show us where we have to go out to shoot it. So we can't do your EPC wetland survey until we are provided the EPC letter from them saying exactly what is wetland. Then we go out and shoot it, and we develop the lines and show you what your wetland actually is.
So you guys don't actually identify the wetland species then? You're relying on someone else to do it?
In Hillsborough County, you really can't unless you're actually licensed to do that. So EPC generally does that for all surveyors. There are some that have the license to do that. It's a bunch of extra stuff, and there's really not a need for it because the county takes care of it.
Yeah, you have to be an environmentalist.
Right. Yeah. Again, my background in that survey down in Naples, Fort Myers, a lot of them are the same. The surveyor can do their own identification. It just speeds things up. So that could be a competitive advantage for you guys.
Yeah, definitely. It's something to look into.
Leo's going to add to your business. You just don't know it yet.
Excellent.
All right. So what about when you guys go out to do a survey and like in that instance where Michelle, I think, is in the lobby, but she has one right now she's fighting on, which kind of brought the whole topic for today's show, where the survey shows a shed in the back that actually is on the neighbor's property. Neighbor allowed it, but it's totally encroachment. So people think, sometimes they don't know what these words are, but I use football terms, right? So if you watch football, you know what encroachment on the defense is. So it's sort of the same thing. Like you're encroaching or inching over your neighbor's property.
Yeah, it's a very common thing. Surveyors aren't technically allowed to say it's an encroachment. We don't call things an encroachment.
Oh, you guys are not allowed to say anything, but you know it when you're out there.
Oh, we definitely do. You see a lot of things. I've seen entire sheds. I've seen people's houses encroaching on other people's boundaries. There's pools, lots of pools. That's a very, very common thing. The surprising thing is when you actually do see an addition of a house completely blowing somebody's property line by like 10 feet. You're just like, wow, the legal's got to be wrong or something. And it turns out it's not. They're literally, they built into that 10.
How does that even happen? Wrong survey or what? How does that happen?
No, actually, it's the the person that was there, it's a vacant piece of land, as Ben was saying earlier, it's a vacant piece of land for 10, 20 years, and nobody's there, so there's nobody there to fight them. They just kind of keep pushing out and pushing out and pushing out and doing it without permits, and eventually they'll get caught for the permits, and then they've got to do a variance, and then they rely on the person that actually owns that property to sell them that land, and a lot of times that doesn't happen.
Well, we talked about that statute in the Florida statute where over time they've been maintaining it. And is it 20 years?
Like 20 years. But I mean, I've seen pools that basically someone will buy a house and then their neighbor, if they get pissed off at them, they can actually take them to code enforcement and have them remove a pool. It's just not a situation you want to be in.
I was waiting for Pat to go, okay, I didn't do it. Learn the no words, Leo. I'm just teasing you. I don't think you're supposed to say that word. You know, the P-O word. Anyway. Is it? Okay. You're listening to Tampa Home Talk. Our off-air number is 813-377-2775. If you want to connect with myself, Leo, our surveyors, or any of our guests, 813-377-2775. You can call or text us. 813-377-2775. And when we come back, we're going to have a special little treat for you. And, of course, we'll give you the real estate tip of the day. We'll be back in a minute.
Curious what your Tampa home is worth? Here's an easy way to find out what homes like yours are selling for in today's market. Text the word value to 813-377-2775 for a free report on Tampa house prices. We'll send you a free report with up-to-the-minute statistics based on all homes for sale sold in your neighborhood over the last 6 months in all price ranges. To get your free report on Tampa Bay house prices, just call or text the word value to 813-377-2775.
Barrel Engineering and Inspection, 813-616-3301. Are you buying and selling a home? Do you need to have your home checked out because you think it's collapsing on itself? Call us, Barrel Engineering and Inspection, 813-616-3301.
Do you need something to get you motivated to take action, to learn how to eat healthy? This is Samantha Taylor, health and fitness expert. It is time for you to get results. Call 813-377-2255. That's 377-2255.
That's right, Mackenzie. What a dinner we had last night. It was unbelievable. Hey, it's Billy Facilla right here, Wesley Chapel, Facilla Kia, talking to the girls doing commercials today. But I'll tell you what a magnificent dinner we had last night at that restaurant on Swan down there in South Tampa. What a great meal. But, folks, this month, catch it here. In Wesley Chapel, this gas deal we're doing, people are driving from hour and a half away of a new Kia. That's right, folks. Regardless of what you pay, regardless of what Kia you purchase or lease, you're going to leave here with free gas for one year. Whether you're shopping Facilla Wesley Chapel, Facilla Port Charlotte, or Facilla Cape Coral, free gas for the entire year. Don't miss the opportunity. Come in and see us where everything is huge.
Dealer discount off the dealer list price or a check equal to the dealership's estimated cost for regular unleaded gasoline for 1 calendar year for the particular new Kia model purchased or leased. Estimate is final and will not be recalculated based upon actual fuel cost. May not be combined with other offers. Prior sales excluded. See dealer for details. Offer ends July 2nd, 2018. America's best value summer event.
Have some fun every day at 11 a.m. on Mason-Dixon Wide Open with the Sarge. Mason does original lyrics about cable news anchors.
Now, what comes to my mind is the Don Henley song, Dirty Laundry. Bubble-headed bleach blonde comes on at 5. She can tell you about the fake news with a gleam in her eye.
From the media to politicians and world leaders, it's covered on Mason-Dixon Wide Open with the Sarge. Every weekday from 11 a.m. till noon on Money Talk 1010 a.m. on FM at 103.1, 92.1, and 99.5 HD2.
Thanks for joining us on Money Talk at 1010 a.m. on FM at 103.1 and 92.1 and 99.5 FM HD2. This is station manager Charlie Oakes, and if you have any suggestions or you'd like to do your own show, call my private line 727-563-8821. If you have an idea for a local show and would like to be part of Money Talk, call me 727-563-8831. Thanks for listening and being part of Money Talk at 1010 a.m. on FM at 103.1 and 92.1 and 99.5 FM HD2.
Welcome back. It's Tampa Home Talk. Thanks for hanging out with us during the break. And today's show has been all about surveys, what you need to know, and what to look for. And certainly, you guys have brought a lot of value in today's show. I really appreciate you guys sharing. and some of the tips that you gave as well. And I want to introduce a couple special guests. It's rare that we get to bring some of our people in the studio, but some of our clients were actually, you guys have been hanging out in the St. Pete Clearwater area for a while, waiting patiently on their home to be done. And I just want to tell their story real quick. And Leo and his team, actually, you did it yourself, didn't you?
Yeah, I believe
did their
so.
inspection. So they bought a property in Wesley Chapel. The owner did, it was like an investor. I think they fixed it up and everything. Well, they also built an addition. And I asked the agent about it because I saw the prior MLS photos. And I said, your seller built this addition. It looks like they did it without a permit. You have any more information on that? And she would always dance around any question I asked, not really be very direct on it. So I told you guys going into it, look, this could be an issue for you later if it even gets through the process and you close with it, you might have to deal with that. And I was so glad that the appraiser actually flagged it because the seller had to fix it before we were done. Any comments on that, Leo? Because you saw the house.
You know, it's just common. The fixer flippers, the sellers, they try and do additions. They take out walls. They all know that unless an appraiser flags it, they can get away with it.
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
like they doesn't matter if an engineer says it. Doesn't matter if a home inspector says it. You almost need an active appraiser or active code enforcement to make them actually do something about it. Otherwise, it's just buyer beware.
Right, yeah. We're exactly that state. But so Chris and Chelsea moved here from Nashville. You guys were introduced to us by Dave Ramsey and his team. So it's cool that, you get to kind of share your story. But you're moving to Florida from a totally different state. No family, no friends here. Will you just share, like, in your own words, what was your experience like with us? Just out of curiosity.
I mean, honestly, the experience couldn't have been better. We started this process back in February, I believe. We were up in Nashville and only talked with Katrina over phone calls, text messages, and we did Google Hangouts as well. But it felt really good knowing that we had someone in our corner down here while we were taking care of everything we needed to up there.
And Chelsea, bless her, she was a little bit like anxious about the whole process. She's like, you're a planner, like me a little bit, right? But you're a little bit, her background is she's an accountant. So you know how that goes. Like Leo, you have the same personality style. As an engineer, you have to know every little detail. And that is so not the process for a real estate transaction.
I call her my nervous squirrel.
Yes. All right. So come on, Chelsea. Tell me what you think.
I have to say there's been a million bumps in the road, but the one thing that I've loved about the entire process is knowing that they had our backs and I could call them at any time and know exactly what was going on. And Katrina's awesome. She's a pit bull when she needs to be, but she'll also hold your hand if that's what you need to.
Thank you so much. We appreciate that, and we're glad to have you guys here. You're gonna love it here. And a cool thing about Chris too, he because I like to get to know you guys, of course, before, during, and after. But you used to work for Zander Insurance as well, right?
For about
He's
3 years.
a little bit on the IT side, so pretty cool background, and got relocated here to the Tampa area with their 3 kids, and excited to buy your house today. I'm sure, right?
Yes.
So look, if you had to tell someone else about me, what would you tell them about your experience with myself and my team? What was your biggest concerns about this process, moving to another state, and how do you feel now about those concerns?
Our biggest concerns was not having a house to go to, and that exactly ended up happening. We've been in a hotel.
You brought it. You know that, right?
I brought it. So we've been without a house for about a month now, living in a hotel, but it's been fine. It's a little cramped, but it's going to make it that much sweeter when we finally do close on our house. I will say that.
And is there anything else that surprised you along the way that you were happy we were there holding your hand for?
Definitely the addition, getting that permitted. It was good to have someone in our corner fighting for us for that.
And someone that's experienced and knows the ropes and knows what to look out for and how to help us through this process every step of the way.
What about trying to find the home when you guys were
oh my gosh.
When you weren't here and Chris was still in Nashville?
I think we looked through the portal you sent us. I think we looked at over 200 houses. And then when we finally we narrowed it down, we ended up looking at 15 driving down here for a week before we made the offer.
What was that like for you, Chelsea, knowing he was here without you looking at houses?
It was pretty crazy sending him down here to look at different areas to figure out where we should land. Because we'd never actually been to Tampa before we decided to move here. So maybe we're a little crazy, but so far we love it.
So I remember something that you said during the process. I got a stellar memory. I remember all kinds of stuff. And I remember when you were talking about, well, because we looked at properties in Brandon, we looked at properties in Tampa, we looked at Wesley Chapel, and you said, well, are we Wesley Chapel people? I don't even know. Like, do we fit in this community? Do we fit in that community? What's Brandon like? So we get a lot of those questions. And do you feel like I did a good job answering this for you?
Absolutely.
I do, because I think our biggest concern was schools, because our biggest problem with Nashville with schools and spending 4 hours a day carting kids to and from school next year was daunting. So trying to find a school that they could actually just go to and not have to cart them around everywhere, but that are decent schools and they're going to give them a good education and soccer teams and all the other things we have.
And no drive-bys. That's a little bonus for you. All right. So to give you our real estate tip of the day, that's what that doorbell was for. My tip of today is going to be make sure you have a good experienced agent like me on your team to help you, because you guys love this house, right? So we made it happen. But I told you before we ever made the offer that addition likely was not permitted, didn't I? As a matter of fact, I tried to talk you out of that house, if you remember. So come on, share. I mean, how many agents are going to talk you out of buying a house?
You did. We went back the second day because we went and looked at about 10 or 15 houses. No, about 10 houses the first day in various areas. We looked at Lutz, we looked at Land O'Lakes, we looked at Wesley Chapel. We kind of had it narrowed down to that north region. And then we went back the second day. We're like, we really like this house. And you're like, I don't know about all that. So she went and showed us some new builds, and she showed us some other ones in the neighborhood. But we were just stuck on this house for whatever reason. It had everything that we wanted to have for the price that we were looking to pay. And so we went with it, and it's going to be worth it now, but it's been a process.
Well, you know what happened was the appraiser actually flagged that unpermitted addition, and then they had to fix it. They had to go back to the county and fix it. And I told you guys, I know it's painful. You enter a hotel, but you had the beach right there, so it could have been a lot worse. And I'm glad that you didn't have to deal with this after the fact, and the seller that actually did this had to deal with it. So, we say every week, love where you live or fix it, but you guys can be my witness. I offer our 90-day love where you live guarantee, right? Yes. So you're moving from another state. If you don't love it, in the first 90 days, still as much as you do today, we're going to resell it for free and find you a new one. Fair enough? Fair enough. All right. I'm your host, Katrina Madewell. Thanks for sticking around with us for the surveys. Thank you guys very much, Jason, Ben, for coming in. We appreciate having you.
Thank you so much for having us. It's been a pleasure.
You guys brought a lot of amazing value to the show today, and we'll have to do like a little YouTube snippet video with a survey so you can point on a few things. Leo, you're awesome. Thanks for coming in every week. And like I said, he'll likely be filling in for me next week. I'm having surgery, Pat. Sorry, I don't have no idea what time I'm going there to tell me the day before. It's not a cruise, so you're good with that. All right. Off air number 813-377-2775. Remember, love where you live or I'll fix it. Welcome home.